Hello and welcome to Chamber Talk. I'm Andrew Gregson, and today we have the pleasure of speaking with a dynamic leader in education, Dr. Julienne Lee, Superintendent of Buena Park School District. Dr. Lee, thank you so very much for coming on today.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
So just to start off, we wanted to talk or share a little, if you could share a quick overview of Buena Park School District. I do know that it was founded in 1890, which is amazing, but if you could fill in the blanks there quite quickly, that would be awesome.
Absolutely. I can fill in the blanks. Rewinding probably 1 year ago when I was appointed as the superintendent. Buena Park School District is located near Knott's Berry Farm. I know many people are well acquainted with the area due to many of the attractions as also businesses, and the official Koreatown on Beach Boulevard. The school district has 7 schools, 5 elementary, 2 middle schools, and we have world-class award-winning programs. Just to mention a couple, we recently received the Golden Bell for our Future Farmers of America, or our Agricultural Sciences program.
Congratulations.
And we also received a $20,000 contribution grant funding from the OC Power Authority to build out sustainable irrigation water systems. And these programs are not only going to make a local impact, but a global one.
Now these programs, or the award you just received, that Golden Award, does that take a significant amount of time that you've got to do certain things to achieve the goals, or is it a certain program and you just,
Absolutely. It starts at grassroots with an excited, passionate teacher, Shelly Andros. And you have a group of students and you build the program up because these students are interested in not only looking at sustainable food sources, we look to unravel environmental sciences that impact healthy living. So it began with the teacher's passion leading to the principal's charge. And at the district office, we support and remove the barriers so that we make these programs happen. Just as a prime example, the teacher had a visionary idea to write for a grant that will build out a greenhouse. So now on campus, we have a greenhouse, and that required the district to look at DSA approval to possible. It didn't require it at the time, but we were looking at also funding matches to be able to build something on our campus. Now the vision is to build out that solar powered irrigation system with animal farms and chicken coops that are solar powered. But it not only expands to having students experience environmental sciences and agricultural sciences, the teacher also teaches STEM robotics. So we look at robotics and science and how they contribute to agricultural sciences. We've looked at our applied arts teacher, and she teaches industrial arts. They will be building out the animal farms and the coops. Because we're going to be utilizing students to vision, there's a vision, but to be able to work out the details of electrical, wood panels, building, cementing, construction within our industrial arts program.
That's
and
awesome.
we recently hired a muralist for our arts. So how do we then herald out the achievements of this program? We're going to utilize the school as a canvas to have students build out live murals. Involving a CTE pathway, career technical education, credentialed teachers to create a community of professional learning in intersectionality of these subjects. So that's just to highlight one middle school in the Buena Park
That's so
School
exciting,
District.
isn't it? Imagine being a part of that and then looking back, like the kids themselves, what they've achieved, because that's so much. That's a whole industry, really. Basically, you've created.
Right.
That's fantastic. Well, I wish you all the very best of luck with that. That's
Thank
awesome.
you.
Now, you've been in the education field for some time.
Yes.
So why don't we just enlighten our listeners a little bit more about you and share a little bit about your background and your journey up to the Buena Park School District?
Yes, thank you for asking. I've been in education for 28 years. I began in Long Beach Unified School District as a dual immersion teacher for English and Spanish. My heart and passion was with the emerging bilingual community in which I was raised in, and I grew up in Long Beach. And with that, carried me about approximately 7 years in Long Beach, serving as not only a teacher, but working alongside the district in professional development to move to Fullerton. And my last 19 years were in Fullerton, raising 4 children, being a part of the community I also serve. And as a teacher, as a coach, a response intervention coach, to an assistant principal, and then going to the district office as an assistant superintendent of educational services, pretty much captures my 20 years, 19 years in Fullerton, which is a neighboring city,
Yes.
and which is an absolute lovely place. But the calling was in Buena Park.
Right. Well, I mean, there's no harm in that, and as you're
No.
right, everything all merges, and Fullerton and Buena Park get along very well. So
They do.
there's no harm in that.
They do.
So moving forward into the things that you're doing now. Obviously, you've been in the job for a little over a year, or nearly a year, right? What sort of vision do you see because obviously every superintendent brings in their own little bits of pieces of themselves. What types of visions are you looking for to put through for the school district?
Yes, the school district is known for their passion programs. So it's to ignite the passion for learning in all areas of academics, but also building the identity of the child. So as an example, in 2025, we'll be launching our first dual immersion program. We also have passion programs in the areas of communication, and examining the industries of STEM, in the areas of IB, which Pendleton has an IB program, International Baccalaureate program, which infuses learning Spanish throughout the day. So there's a language component and a STEM component. So what we're trying to offer is a plethora of different programs where students will feel an identity and build up their passions for learning, because there's a connection. Unique programs like the Superintendent's Cup. Every January we hold a competition for soccer and get the kids all ramped up with just branded uniforms around their colors. The parent community is out there, and for what that does to the communities, gives back just in a wellness piece of kids running on green grass. And it seems almost, I hate to say this, but in today's world, not a given. The kids have an opportunity to get fresh air, run around outdoors, connect with each other, and build relationships without devices.
Right.
And that's the beauty of Buena Park. When you actually dig a little further, you will find the goodness of connections, people connecting with people. And in this world of, yes, technology, there's a place for that, absolutely. But it's not about the technology and the tool and the devices, the kids and the leaders to operate them in the future. And what they're going to need are skills. They're going to carry them there, which is connectivity, which is interpersonal relationships, and it's also to be able to critically think outside of what we imagine for them today.
And that's a great lead-in answer, really, to the next question. Is obviously we're in a very rapid changing world.
Yes.
So how do you have to pivot as a district to keep the world sort of ahead for your students?
Right, and the growth mindset piece, I want to just focus on a little bit, because I feel like the technology is rapidly moving. We feel that environmentally things are rapidly moving. But there's a responsibility piece that we own in an educational system, is to build up certain mindsets for learning, to equip our students and our children for the future in a way where sometimes a rapidly moving world does not make easily conducive. So
Sure.
for example, perseverance. Convenience sometimes takes place of certain things that kids need to cognitively struggle with, where they build up the skill of perseverance.
Sure.
How about flexibility in our world today, right? Empathy, hospitality. There's things I believe that we take the time to model, but also guide children in to build up these core values that turn into leadership opportunities.
Sure.
I feel like that's how we're going to equip our kids. Yes, immersed into what I just talked about. Sciences, STEM fields, communication, things and opportunities that we don't want to be lacking in any way. But to get us there, we'll be building up our kids in how to what do you do when you face a problem?
Sure.
Right? How do you grapple with that?
Sure.
And how do you turn to others for that support? Those are skills, I believe, that are not given. They're modeled and taught. And that's the beauty of Buena Park, once again.
And do you feel, we had a conversation the other day about COVID and how it's changed a lot of things, and often we don't look at, maybe how it's affected our kids. Do you feel that there's a part of what the schools are doing is to help the kids fix or repair the bits that were missing? Yes. Is that been a large sort of like endeavor?
Absolutely. Just last night we had a board meeting and we did a data presentation. So we were to rewind time a little bit to say the kindergartners during COVID are now in 4th grade. So let's examine that.
Imagine that.
Right? So how about the years where you teach foundational skills? How about the years we teach how to share?
Right.
Right? Where are those kids now, right? So on my site visit at one of our elementary schools this morning, principal walked me through a 5th grade classroom. And I was able to read to the class, which was a big honor. And in my field, you don't want to lead from a desk. You want to lead in a classroom, but I feel like it's sometimes so far away. Just connecting with the kids once again. But it was a 5th grade class, and I did comment this. I said, they are so well behaved. And then the principal said that wasn't always the case. This is the group that they were struggling because they missed those years, primary foundational years.
Sure.
And they thought that school was in a box, in Zoom. And when you asked them to draw their classroom, they drew squares and faces in squares.
Because they're only looking
That's
at
what
the
they
screen.
saw.
Right.
And they said in order to overcome, so the social-emotional aspects, they had to put together programs during lunch, games, put coaches out there. We had our PE coaches serving at lunch to facilitate conversations. So in other words, back in the day where we just let kids loose, we actually had to go back to our kids to be able to say, hey, we're going to spend some time talking to you and teaching you how to have a conversation.
Otherwise, they might have just sat there in silence, isn't it?
Right. And they said those behaviors weren't always like that. No. And I thought, wow, the effort and the lift that the school had to do into, first of all, kudos to them for acknowledging that and finding that.
Yeah.
But to act upon it was intentional.
Yeah, because it's not your everyday pre-COVID. It wasn't your everyday curriculum type thing, was it? Because it was just happening as it was going along.
Absolutely.
That's pretty amazing.
Right. And I want to just highlight one of the best things that happened to me as an educator was going to a competition and having a group of kids do a coding. It was a coding activity, and they had to program their robots. And I was a principal of a computer science pathway school. So this was something that I prided. It was just so I prided it in the program. Yeah, absolutely. And I felt like we built it up, and to have the students compete was a huge honor. But what happened was the lights of the building knocked off their sensors, and it deprogrammed their robots.
Oh, wow.
So what do you do in that case of weeks and weeks of the programming just went down? With that experience. And so the kids were fighting, they're pulling the robots, going, give it to me, give it to me. Parents are looking at teachers going, do something. We're looking at the parents going, do something. And then we realized something. That was the best thing to happen to our school, where we knew we had to teach kids, what does it mean during that moment to persevere? Right. What does it mean to regather your thoughts? What does it mean to cooperate, not just by words, but to show them, model, teach them what that means.
Right.
So the teachers, we grouped together and we said, we're not going to let this happen to our kids again. Why? We're not equipping them for the future. The focus isn't about robots and programming.
Sure.
The focus then became, and our charge became, teaching kids how to handle situations where it's not a typical daily for them. This will bring them up to be leaders of the world if they are taught how to unravel, fix, re-examine, cooperate, be flexible, be empathetic, all of the mindsets for learning, and to experience them and know them. So just to even highlight that experience to show that the kids need to be taught these values, and COVID did a number on our school system.
Yeah, well, it did to adults too, didn't it?
Absolutely.
It still has, I think.
So we got to go back and teach them all this.
We've got to teach everybody everything. Yeah. They all need to go back to school. So you were mentioning before, obviously, your really ahead with certain programming, and you were mentioning at the very beginning about how you got an award for certain programs and things like that. Now, this all costs a lot of money, and funding's very important. We're on the verge of a huge change potentially in the way that our country's been running everything, but locally, more importantly, we've got other things like we've got Measure M coming up and stuff like that. Do you want to share a little bit about what that's going to do for the school if it passes and how important it is?
Absolutely. And if I may paint a picture.
Please do.
This picture was my last year's experience. And now, mind you, I'm in a honeymoon phase. I love Buena Park School District for the wholesomeness, for the goodness. It's only as good as the people that live there, operate, lead, and the children that are going to also come back. We have many families that come back generationally to Buena Park because they don't forget Buena Park. I want to be able to preserve that as a superintendent. And one way to do that is to put funding in facilities and buildings that won't outlast a generation of kids.
Sure.
So meaning these buildings that were built in the 60s, and we have infrastructural issues where we're looking at leaking ceilings, we're looking at eroded irrigation systems that create flooding during a rainy season. We're talking about unleveled fields, potholes. So when I bragged about my district, about the Superintendent's Cup, kids running out there on green grass, kids learning how to persevere, doing social emotional learning out in the recess time during lunch, we need the facilities to support this. And what's happening is over time, the upgrades needed, the funding is lacking to actually address any of that.
Sure.
It's not like we have a magic pot of money to go back and fix these things. So we rely on bond measures to be able to provide the funding so that the kids can still thrive in their learning environment. Now, with Measure M, what it will unlock innovative outdoor learning spaces. We have middle schools that don't have tracks. We have middle schools that have outdated tracks, a track outside. We also have infrastructural issues that, whether it be plumbing to, and I'm not trying to picture of unsafety. We're not at that point, but it could only last so long. So I say this, as much as I love my job, I know the reality is 30 years from now, I will not be standing before anyone saying that I'm the superintendent of Buena Park School District. But I do know a generation of kids will come back to Buena Park because they love Buena Park. And I know our future generation of kids will continue to serve. However, will the buildings uphold the test of time?
Now, would I be correct in saying, because I think it's quite important to mention this as well, that you were mentioning there, you've got some buildings that were built in the 50s or 60s, but then so's everything else, right? So's electrical, so's plumbing and things like that. Would I be right in saying it's not just a case of there's funding or monies required to repair or even not necessarily repair, it might not be broken, but bring it up to modern day standards. That if you fix one thing, then the new codes or sanctions that we've been put on with certain things, does that then add more additional costs? Like if you change a window, the window frame has to be compliant to this now, so then it means more work has to be done just around one little thing. Would that be right?
Absolutely. I'll give you an example. So our last bond measure, the focus was on upgrading classroom technology. So every classroom is not only equipped with modern furniture, but modern technology. Yet the electrical systems that support a speedy internet in terms of the capabilities of handling upgraded technology still has to be met. So one thing, upgrading and uplifting one area does impact other areas of outdated infrastructure.
Right.
As an example.
Now, I'm sure, the community is going to hear some of this and obviously read all the signs that are around everywhere and obviously vote for the Measure M. When you receive these bonds, part of what your job is, obviously you've got a big sheet of paper and a plan. What are some of the first things you're looking at actually changing or doing with some of this, with this money?
Right. We're looking at safety measures.
Okay.
So re-examining them. Our schools are safe.
Sure.
But I don't want temporary fixes.
Of course.
I want sustainable, lasting changes. So that will be my first priority. We're also looking at innovative outdoor spaces that communities can gather. So, for example, one school has a gym, the other does not have a community space.
Oh.
Okay, so it will potentially unlock opportunities to invest back into the community. So we do, a beauty of Buena Park is actually we do collaborate with the city. So this is unique to Buena Park is we have a partnership with our Buena Park Middle School gym where it's on our facilities and our property, but it's co-opted by the city.
Oh.
So they have staff to operate. So after hours, it goes back to the community.
A little bit like Whittaker Park.
Exactly like Whittaker Park.
Right.
So Whittaker Park is the
Perfect
playground
example.
of Whittaker School.
Yes.
But we open the gates up after 4 for it to be open to the community,
Sure.
so they can take advantage of the jogging, the walking areas, the equipment, the health equipment out there, the fraction basketball courts, pickleball. So we're trying to create spaces that the communities can gather. We have a very diverse community, and we want our community members to feel connected to the schools so that their cultures can flourish within our community as well. So we want the sense of a community school. We don't want to close our gates off to the community. We understand for safety reasons during the day, instructionally we do.
Sure.
But everyone who grows up in the area, whether it's a rental home, your homeowner, whether it be mobile homes, they want the sense of not only building their identity in the place that they're to live, but the closeness to the schools. And as well the schools look and are functioning, it will increase traffic to our city. It will also bring wealth to our city.
Sure.
And it will also bring an increase in homeowner investment.
Oh, 100%.
And so it's a win-win
it adds value to the whole community, doesn't it? When you're able to
Absolutely.
share things like that or
Right.
commodities like that. That's
and
fantastic.
we do have an oversight committee that examines exactly where the money goes, cent by cent. And we have a master facility plan that shows with transparency where the priorities are, but where the work will be done.
That's good. That's good.
Thank you.
Is there anything else you'd like to add regarding that at all?
I do, and I too am a voter, and I'm a mother of 4 children. I have 2 actually adult age that are voting. It's amazing.
Wow.
And we have family conversations before we actually fill out our mail-in ballots.
Sure.
I guess the consideration is, and it's an investment, it's asking the love, leveraging the love that exists in Buena Park to ask, please remember the letter M. I know there's a lot of letters on the
Letters everywhere,
ballots,
yeah.
but M for me stands for my school. And if you want, I'm a alliterations person. Sorry, I'm a former English teacher. I gotta put this plug in. But M&M, if you remember M&M. In fact, I'm attending these trunk or treat events and giving out M&Ms, right? Because you want Measure M to stick out,
Yeah.
and you say that it represents my school.
Yeah.
And we had a child say it best. We said, it's a place that I feel safe, and it's a place that I can meet friends and connect. Literally from the words of one of our students who did a walk this last Saturday.
Wow, that was
and
good.
she said, remember Eminem. And I said, Eminem, that's perfect. Modernize my school.
The other part, which is, the area that we're in or the region we're in is very diverse. And all the
Yes.
schools have got, it's the population is very vast.
Yes.
How does this district ensure that it's sort of equally inclusivity to all the students, regardless of the backgrounds, yet keeping that sort of like American culture within the school district?
Right. One of our board-approved core values is civic duty. So we make sure that is at the forefront also of what we model as leaders, but that we value the importance instilling within our students. So how, as a leader, do you show that you give back to your community and your contributions as a citizen to this nation? That is very important in our district. And I will say it's important for all 5 board members to uphold that. But also we take an asset-based approach to those who are moving into our community and those who reside in our community. So we have a large Latino Hispanic population, and we have a large Korean American population.
Yeah.
And so within our city, what we want to really, really showcase is the strengths of cultures that people bring in as assets. So if you are an emerging bilingual and you speak another language at home, we love that you're able to bring that asset to the table. Back in the day, we used to call that an ESL program.
Okay.
Now we have an English language development program, and absolutely teaching English is a priority within that. But there's a school, for example, Gilbert Elementary, they believe in translanguaging. So there's a fluidity and understanding that we're working with the parents and the students within their native language, and that's how you find the connectedness.
Sure.
And build those relationships.
Well, that's very true.
So I was, and because due to my background, I was able to enter a classroom space where I read a book in Spanish. And it was to also connect with the kids it's a beautiful book. It's called Alma, and is Como obtuvo su nombre. So it's how she got her name. And we're talking about cultures that have long names. So we went into how, do you have a long name? And the students were saying, I have a long name. Do you know where it comes from? They said, well, you have homework. They're like, homework. And then sure enough, they go home to ask their parents, where did my name come from? So there was one student who came from one of the Latin American countries, and she was new to the school. She had full access to that lesson. Not only that, 1 month later, she comes up to me and says, I did my tarea, which is homework. I did it. I said, and then I forgot. I said, you did great. You did your homework. She goes, no. I did the homework you gave me. And I said, oh my gosh, you asked your parents where your name is from. And she said, yes, and I know exactly where it's from. And so the beauty is that a child from another area, of another country, came and had an access to a lesson due to connecting with the character of the story, with the language it was spoken in, and also connecting with that and family.
That's nice.
Yes.
That really is nice, isn't it? Yeah, it's not often you get that in a school. I don't remember doing anything like that at school. Do you?
Right.
I don't remember anything like that. I'm going to get a quick drink of tea here. Very good. All right. So, looking back over the past year, let's say, and obviously coming in with fresh eyes, were there any particular challenges or things that you saw that you had to meet head on when as coming in as a brand new superintendent?
Building trust is first and foremost as a new person coming into a school district, and I feel trust only comes with follow through. So it's one thing to listen, but it's another to listen and not respond. So you want to listen, and to show you've listened and not just heard, you want to respond. And my year 2 is about that. And I'm going to be honest on this podcast, I'm going to fall short as a superintendent if I'm not addressing the immediate needs of the facility needs of the site. If there's a site that we have patched up due to flooding, I need to know that those solutions are sustainable. So I've heard from the sites, and I continue to hear from the sites. I'm having Java with Julienne, which is a coffee time with parents, and I'm doing, I'm going to the parent spaces, not asking them to come to the district, and listening to parents. I'm doing another round of superintendent listening tours with the staff. I'm going to continue to listen to make sure that we're actually making the impact.
Right.
It's one thing to listen and then come up with plans.
Sure.
It's another to see the impact and the outcome. Right? Because what we plan doesn't necessarily guarantee that the outcome and impact is what we had intended. One way to be able to address all of the needs of the facility and to unlock so that I as a superintendent cannot fail the districts but come through for them in building trust and listening is to get this measure to be able to support all these fixes our school needs. I want green grass so kids can run on.
Now that's, I apologise, really. I suppose I should have led in with that question after you answered a couple of minutes ago when we were talking about Measure M. But, what does happen if Measure M doesn't pass? Like, what happens?
Right.
Let's go for that challenge for a moment.
Absolutely. Number one, we don't access the state bond. State bond does not increase, I'm told, state your personal taxes. It comes from the state's general fund. However, as a school district, we cannot access that without matching local funds. So by getting Measure M, it'll give us access to state bonds, granted it passes.
Right.
Proposition 2. Now, what happens if we don't get the money? We get typical type of funding, which are limited. So we do fixes, but we do fixes based upon, priority and needs here and there.
So like Band-Aid stuff.
It is.
Right.
And we pride ourselves in absolutely being safe and keeping the kids safe. But we're looking at building structures that'll last us 30 years or more.
Right.
So right now, I'll tell you, we have 100 portables that have outlived their time.
Sure.
Okay, so I need to find a solution for that. The bond measure will unlock that. Now, if I don't get that, will I still unlock it? Absolutely. But we're going to have to dive much deeper into different pockets of funding, let alone advocacy.
Right.
That we don't get money to fix.
No.
That's not a given.
Yeah.
But here's where our Buena Park School District is responsible. For example, we're looking at zero emission buses, electric buses. So we're trying to go for anything that's offered an opportunity to set us up. We just received a $4 million grant for HVAC systems for air conditioning. So we're not just relying on bond measures. We're going to do whatever above and beyond it takes to take the pressure off of the bond, actually.
Right.
Because it could be covered by bond, but we're looking at other measures to fund it. So we will always be responsible, and we will always seek out and look and go above and beyond. But however, we do not get extra money from the state to be able to do these fixes that come with just aging buildings.
Yeah, well, it's everything, isn't it? It's even your own home.
It's my own home as
You know,
well.
you have your own home, you live in it for 15, 20 years, you're going to have to fix something in it. You know, something's going to break.
You'll get the plumbing leak.
Plumbing leak, anything. Carpet starts to peel somewhere, It happens everywhere, I suppose, really. Now, one of the things that I suppose we haven't touched on is, businesses have a hard time right now with employment, whether it's retaining people or finding folks. What's going on with the school district? Is that how do you retain good educators, and how do you keep people, ready and willing and committed and
Right. That actually is a very interesting question, because I asked myself as a year 2 superintendent what my vision is for the school district. Year 1 was just absolutely beautiful. It's getting to know people and names, people and names and faces. But year 2, I felt the clarity was needed in the direction. And year 2, I was able to meet the superintendent of Long Beach Unified School District when I began as a teacher 20 years ago.
Oh, wow.
To find out that his vision was something that impacted me as a new teacher. So the gift I received was that superintendent's vision. 28 years later, I realized this. So then the epiphany was, the superintendent's vision matters.
Yeah.
Because that gives direction. So I started out year 2 launching belief statements. Do you truly believe that your job entails students at the heart of all decision making, and then my job as a superintendent is to remove the barriers for learning?
Sure.
Do you believe that parents are the first and foremost and most powerful advocates for their child? And do you believe that the impact is made in the classroom, and that should be where the priority is? So I asked my classified staff, my certificated staff, do you believe in this, and are you in? Okay, so that clarity was, for me, needed, but also I felt as though was the charge of the district. And I think that was the thing too, was the clarity and the confidence of why you signed up for Buena Park. So in other words, do you believe that this is the reason we were called to be together to serve this community? So people needed to know that, and it was important for me to clarify and share with others in a vulnerable way, that even though I've been tapped to be this superintendent, right, with a very, very large title, first and foremost, I'm an educator, I'm a mother, and I'm a parent, and I come before you as that person. And this is what led me to the journey of Buena Park, but that question, are you in, is a question they need to answer. So with that, with the utmost confidence, I do believe even our teacher union, fabulous. They're in it for the right reason. Okay, so first and foremost, let's validate our staff and say there's a purpose and a meaning. You are here, and it's not by coincidence. It's with intentionality. You are here serving today. So that was the first and foremost, and then it's also take care of your people. So there's some questions that go in my head as a superintendent, but also as Julienne Lee, the person. Number one is, does it make sense? And that was to answer, does this all make sense? Yes, because we were called to do this work.
Sure.
But the second question I ask out loud is, are we doing right by people? That means you treat people with not only respect, but also an understanding that you may have diverse thoughts. And in a polarized world today, we are called to bring about diverse thought to actually move us forward to get to a better place. So it's not that we shy away from people who think differently and have different opinions. It's how do we work and coexist together in harmony. So the question too is, how do we treat others? And am I treating our staff the way not that I would want to be treated, but that they deserve.
Sure.
So I guess I can say we value our staff, but if I don't show that by action or by systems and support, those words go flat. So the second question was that. And the third question that kind of floats in my head is, so what? So I know that's such a very frank question,
Sure.
but sometimes I feel as though I'm in a meeting and, and many times I've been in a meeting as a parent and saying, can I access what they're giving me? So why am I here, right? So parents need to feel the connectivity to the school district. So we have to engage them in their space, in their language, and where they're coming from. And that's going to drive our parents towards Buena Park and have them stay there. So for me, yes, staff is very, very important. We want them to feel confident that they signed up with purpose and meaning. We want them to be treated right so they know they're also respected in the place they work. But it's also about the community they serve. So are our parents here because they want to be here? And are they confident about the school their children attend? And of course, at the heart of all this are kids. Are they flourishing and thriving in our environments? And so that's a daily question that educators should be asking themselves.
Being a superintendent of a school district is like being a CEO of a very large corporation. Folks don't really look at it that way because they think, oh, it's education, it's schooling, it's what have you. However, you have so many different hats that you have to wear throughout the day, throughout the week. You're pulled here, there, and everywhere. There's lots of things to do, How or what time are you able to provide, or you're able to manage that you feel is manageable, where you're able to connect with the students, with the teachers who are in the trenches, with the parents, in order to build your community that you've got going on?
Right. And I didn't mention why Buena Park, and I mentioned a calling here. I just want to mention this piece too. My mother resides in Buena Park, but my dad was a very important person in my life, and he served a community he felt didn't have a voice. He served in advocacy in the political arena for most of his life.
Wow.
When he passed away 7 years ago, his last place was Buena Park, and he told me, invest in Buena Park. My calling wasn't to invest in Buena Park by buying a home here. It wasn't an economic trade. Like, it wasn't to open up a business, But I took it as within what I can do as an educator to invest back into the children of Buena Park. And that was my calling. But I had to actually grapple with that to make sure that wasn't my father's legacy. It was my true calling here.
That's true.
Right. So even going back to that question, and I have to have that moment where I said, I'm going to invest in this community as my guiding light. So that's my North Star. And each day I have to say, did I spend my time investing in Buena Park? So I rarely answer emails in the day. I rarely go into my computer. I rarely sit behind my seat. So I'm out because I feel like when everyone else is here and the students are here, I have to be active and be with them.
Right.
So my schedule looks like I'm continually at the sites almost on a daily basis. I was just mentioned I was in the classroom reading. It helps keep me real to the educator that I signed up to be. When I was tapped out of the classroom, I did not want to leave the classroom. I boldly say this, and I say this with so much pride. I've been a teacher longer than an administrator. It took a lot for someone to tap me out, and it was my mentor who came to me in my classroom to say, are you ready? Are you ready? And I kept on telling her, no, I'm not. I'm going to bury my bones in the classroom. But she said one thing to me, and she said, the hierarchy's the other way. Because I asked her, how's it up there? Because she was an assistant soup. And I said, how is it up there? She said, you got it all wrong. The hierarchy's the other way. The tip of that hierarchy is in the classroom. We're here to serve.
Mm-hmm.
And then I thought, wow, is that true? But she said, but you have the power to make that true.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So the calling was more than just that. But if I don't continue to repeat that for myself, it's easy to just be desensitized and compartmentalized in a district office if I'm not active and visible in a community.
Sure.
You will see me front and center at the city's cultural fest, handing out little yokels and drinks at 5 p.m. when the sun's going down, with helping kids do cultural fans, serving the booth, because our kids and our families are also part of that city event. You will see me at Cops and Goblins this upcoming, month, the weekend or something. Right. Yes. So I believe, number one, visibility, accessibility, but also ongoing reminders of my true north. And that my calling is really to the classroom, even though far removed. I have to examine the impacts of that classroom and constantly ask myself, how do I know I'm successful? I won't know the answer to that question unless I go back to the classroom.
Now, if you had moving on, really what you were just talking about, if you had a magic wand and you could suddenly, not necessarily fix, but take care of certain things, what would be those thorns that you would like to repair or massage immediately?
What I can do immediately, I feel as though I've been tapped to the district office to remove barriers in education. But that's really harder than said than done, even.
Well, that's like changing a whole system, isn't it?
Right. And I have to do this respectfully and professionally.
Yeah.
But the systems have created solutions to problems that aren't necessarily the solution to the problem. I hope that makes sense.
No, it does make sense. I understand what you're saying. Yeah.
Right. And I know people work very hard at the state level. It's not to disregard any of that work. But sometimes when the disconnect is so large, who are the people making sense in the middle? Mm-hmm. Right? So if we're moving back middle school times to 8 o'clock, 8:30, because the law now dictates that, and you have a child late every single day. But the system SARBs them, and the parent has to take off time from work and was told has to wait extra tables to pay for the time missed to attend a SARB meeting at a police station.
Right.
Because the child has to walk his sibling every morning to their elementary school.
Yeah.
Can we truly say the system supports the families? Right? So in other words, it's a solution to a problem that does not meet this is not the solution to the problem.
Right.
Right. So I feel like though that's my job. But I won't know that till I'm at the ground floor. So on the ground floor,
that's true.
And the impact, I need to know that it's not making sense. Once again, I go back to my question, which I serve as a pillar. I said, does it make sense? Does it make sense not to everyone, to my community and the community I serve? So that is my ongoing daily. And then looking at systems once again in academics to understand that, yes, there are gaps in learning. So it's not dumbing down the system so we have more kids to access it. It's staying true to the high expectations we hold, present the rigor, and working harder to get the kids to where they're at, because not all kids come with the same skills. They're from backgrounds in different places. Some come with so much trauma that we have to understand that first before we can say we're accessing any academics for this child. So where are the social services? Where's the support systems? We cannot clock out at 3 o'clock.
No.
If we clock out at 3 o'clock, we do such a disservice to the family in connection with the school. So for example, we now have our first mobile food bank, because we know that there's Maslow's needs that dictate needs for shelter, clothing, food. So can we do better, work harder to provide equity for our communities? That's been my charge. And I consider it a barrier in the education system. These are all barriers to learning.
Yeah.
And that's my charge.
Now, the chamber, when it comes to advocacy, it's, it's a little bit, it's not straightforward, but it seems straightforward because, it's really just to do with certain, Senate bills or Assembly bills that are being passed and businesses aren't happy with it, and we get signatures and we write letters and things like that. What or should I say, I'm asking the question, in the school system, is it very similar, or do you then require maybe parents to help advocate on behalf of the school? When you were talking about these barriers, like how do we go about fixing those barriers or bringing people's attention to them?
Absolutely. So for our parent community, this year we launched a parent empowerment program called Cariño. And cariño in Spanish means care, love, but it's deeper rooted than that. When you say cariño, you think of family, you think of sacrifice, you think of the love and care you would give, not just in relationships, but in the depth of going on a journey together as a system. So it represents 3 different pillars. One is parent education. So we've partnered with Fresno State to offer online free courses in the areas of financial literacy, in the areas of conversational English, conversational Spanish. And these are high quality instruction. It's high quality courses where people can access for free, and at the end we celebrate the parents who've dedicated time to their own growth and education. But the second pillar is parent advocacy. Do you know the laws and compliance that govern school districts? Because you are the first and foremost and most powerful advocate for your child. But can you navigate a parent conference? Right? Do you know the right questions to ask?
Sure.
And what is it that you're needing in your home to make sure that not only can you provide the support for your child, but to also know the laws that govern your child's rights? And I want to be at the table with the parents talking about it.
Of course, yeah, helping them through it. Right.
And the third pillar is parent empowerment. It's how do I know more about my child? And this is not a talk at you workshop. This is an engaging interaction you have with parents. So for the example, the parent community asked for more information on GRIP, which is our gang prevention program, and it's in collaboration with the city. So they said, what are some things we need to look out for at home? My child is starting to self-isolate. They're starting to wear hairnets, or they're starting to wear baggy clothing. Is this an indication of something? What do I need to know? What are some of the questions I can ask my child to engage my child in conversation? So the type of workshops we want to present are ones useful to parents, where they're talking to experts who are trained in this area, who see things out in the city. And that's our 3-pillar parent program that we are launching this year.
Now, you mentioned a little bit about, security. You've mentioned before, being safe. Now of course, you mentioned about, gang culture potentially. Obviously, it's quite a big topic, and I'm not opening up a whole door here, but what types of things do you have to take measures for today in today's society, in the way schools are being hit, as we see on TV sometimes, or targeted maybe? What type of things do you have to pay more attention to now than you might not have had to some years ago?
We need to destigmatize mental health. We do. And COVID had a different effect on different ways on a lot of people.
Sure.
And I think a lot of times when people say mental health, they think, of identification. Are we going to identify our child in some way? Or is a type of help, is that going to, to sway my child into thinking differently? So there's some trust factors that we need to build out in helping support our students, where they will succumb to peer pressure. They're going to have access to things outside of our control. So, and not that I too want to go deeply into, and depict in any way Buena Park being unsafe, but is gangs a reality? It is. In my world, I never miss a GRIP meeting. And if I do, I'll let Conrad know I'm missing the meeting. Because it's that important for me to see the signals and signs. And it's important where I hold the principals to those meetings as well, to say, do you see the signals and signs? Not just in our schools, but in our community around. Right. Why? Because we've been tapped to protect our kids.
Yeah.
But sometimes kids succumb to these pressures when they themselves aren't well. They're seeking identity. They're seeking something from external factors that they're not getting. So whether it be, trauma in the home, whether it be, needing more support in that area, we don't want kids gravitating to building identities in unhealthy ways with unhealthy relationships. But all of that, you have to be a little bit, take proactive measures. You have to be a step ahead.
Yeah.
And to see the markers. So how do we know, and how do we know in the classroom, warning signs when kids show that they're needing this type of support?
And what about physical security on campus?
Yes.
That's a big deal, I'm
It
assuming.
is.
And of course, with campuses sometimes a little bit older, we didn't have huge fences, gates, special
Right.
electrical cameras and all the rest of it.
Right.
How's that feeding into your daily
It is, and
journey?
I'm going to be honest with you. I'm a parent, so I understand that when I let go of my child and I entrust the school with my children,
Yeah.
that I want to not even second guess this one.
Yeah, yeah.
So the safety is huge. That means, is there a perimeter? Are there eyes? Is there vigilance? And are there systems in place where it's a notification system? Is it a communication system? Is it a visitor that is unidentified? Who is on our campuses? So camera systems, yes. And the bond will actually unlock a lot of these things where we do have them, but it'll upgrade them. So in other words, camera system, fencings around schools, we do have that. We're pretty tight with and close to the Buena Park Police Department too, where their vigilance is quite impressive. So we don't want to perceive our schools as unsafe by having constant police presence, but we're actually going through a cultural shift where they're not viewing police officers on campus
Right.
as indications of there's an alarm. They're actually saying, they're here to play basketball with our kids because they're giving away equipment at Beatty, which happened.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm glad that tight relationship, the interagency, and strong interagency within the community is so important. And I was just at one of our schools, Pendleton, and she was talking about the mentorship program with our police officers. So they're on their campus all the time, and one student said, I can't disappoint my mentor. So he is out there, practicing basketball or whatnot. So yes, security is absolutely important, and probably one of the first and utmost priorities we want to give that reassurance to the parent community that the child is well taken care of.
Now, we're coming towards an area of the podcast where we sort of give it an open mic time. So, I've asked you loads of questions.
Oh, yeah.
And you did a great job answering them all. And but there might have been something that maybe you wanted to reiterate on, or maybe we missed, or maybe it's just a final message you want to share with people. Is there anything in particular that comes to mind?
One thing that does come to mind, and I will always herald out the achievements of our district, and I know I'm already in love with Buena Park School District, so it's really not difficult to do. But I want parents to make educated decisions when choosing their schools. There was one hope that I had as a parent. Not that my child goes to Harvard or get into an Ivy League school. It was that my child be loved. And that was actually my nightly prayer, was that my child be loved. And it seems so simple, but we entrust our kids to a school system and to teachers that we could never repay that debt when a teacher helps inspire your children to continue to learn and love to learn. But with that, I would love, just my last pitch for my school district is just to parents to take a look into Buena Park. I'm hoping that they see the goodness that I see, that when they entrust their kids, they know their kids are loved. And the programs are great. I talk about the progress we're making in academics. I can go on and on about, once again, heralding the achievements, because we're getting all this recognition and awards from all over. But I want to go back to cariño, and that be the root of where we're building all of these programs from.
Well, Dr. Lee, thank you so very much for coming on today. I think that's a great finish, actually.
Oh,
that was
you.
awesome.
Thank you.
That was really good. So those of you who are listening, thank you very much for tuning in. And if you'd like to learn more, please visit nocchamber.com and select podcast, and you'll be able to see all the episodes on that page. Dr. Lee, again, thank you so very much. And that's a wrap for today. Thank you for spilling the tea.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Oh, you're welcome.